First up, it was a brutal week for the world's largest retailer. Bentonville-based Wal-Mart fielded allegations that nearly 6 years ago, its top executives were made aware but did not disclose knowledge of a multi-year bribery scheme in its Mexican operations. The Department of Justice, the Securities Exchange Commission, Mexican officials, and Congress have all become involved in investigating the matter. Former CEO Lee Scott is alleged to have known of the scheme, as was current CEO Mike Duke, who then headed international operations. Also involved, former Wal-Mart board member Eduardo Castro-Wright, the one-time golden boy of the Mexican retail division. I caught up with Michael Tilley, editor of the City Wire, our content partner covering Fort Smith and Northwest Arkansas. He's been on top of developments from the start of this story. All right, Michael, big news of the week. A New York Times article concerning Walmart and allegations of a huge bribery scandal in its Mexican operations that Walmart executives covered it up. What's the rundown?
Well, I think the rundown is the bottom line, I should say, is this is serious business for Walmart. I mean, it's serious allegations, and this is something I'm not sure they're going to be able to shake off quickly. You know, the Betty Dukes case, some of the union issues, they were able to run from that, and those were not able to get traction. This is a bad deal. You got the Department of Justice in on it. Mexico has now said they're going to look at it, and even the statements Walmart is putting out, they are taking it seriously. You know, they just hired Tom Jean, a former Fort Smith native, Fort Smith attorney, to head up their Global Foreign Corrupt Practices Act compliance. So they're moving very quickly. They're taking a lot of interesting steps, including a very long press statement that had a video from one of their chief spokesmen. This is going to be, and something else, Roby, this could be a 1, 2, 3 year investigation. Don't expect this to be over anytime soon.
Now, obviously, these allegations are serious, but they're not going to sink Walmart. I mean, Walmart's not going to fall off the face of the planet or anything, but how damaging can it be in terms of share price, in terms of investor confidence, in terms of future growth?
Well, here the thing is, Walmart's international expansion, their international revenue has driven their growth in the past several years. Look at the numbers. Their same-store sales in the U.S., even in the U.K., they would not have been able to keep the company as strong if they had not had that international effort. So the question then is, what happens now? It's going to slow down what they do in Mexico. You know, they've just launched in South Africa. They're trying to get more of a foothold in India, more of a foothold in China. What does that do to all this? Does Walmart internally slow down and say, okay, we better get our ship in order, we better make all the right public relations moves, go back to the different governments we're dealing with and saying, sorry, we're not doing that here? That's the big question. I mean, if you're a shareholder and you know that the only reason you've had value added to that because of that international expansion over the years, this has to be a big concern.
Now, the allegations stretch all the way to the top of Walmart's past and present leadership. We've got current CEO Mike Duke. He was head of international operations at the time. You got current and board member, former CEO Lee Scott allegedly knew of this problem. Eduardo Castro-Wright, who was head of Mexican operations, is kind of at the center of all this. These guys are likely to get paraded in front of a lot of folks for their accounts, including probably Congress.
Right. I mean, this could go to Congress. I mean, Congress loves a good circus, and this could be the great circus for them. But, I mean, those investigations, those legal investigations are going to be serious. And at some point, unless we find out later that these allegations aren't near as serious as we think, but if it is to that $24 million level that we're hearing, I do not see how some of those top officers remain in office. And, we saw, and this makes sense now, when Eduardo Castro-Wright was brought back to the U.S. and then just kind of quietly moved out of some of the senior leadership positions, it was curious as to why that had happened because, at the time, not knowing what we know now, Mexico under his leadership just grew leaps and bounds and was a big part of the company's overall revenue. So, but now we know why he was kind of pushed aside, so to speak, and he's going to be pushed aside a lot sooner. But as you said, Duke, Scott, who knows else? I mean, this could reach into the family. But this, again, it's not over. It's not going to be over anytime soon. It may be that the Department of Justice doesn't report on their findings for another 2 years or so.
There could also be violations of the Sarbanes-Oxley law, which was set up to guard against corporate corruption. Now, that law has some very stringent requirements, Michael, for public companies to disclose information, and it appears that Walmart did not self-report this alleged bribery issue 6 years ago. That seems to kind of be at the crux of what they didn't do right at the time. Why have they all of a sudden in the last 6 months decided to self-report if what's alleged is actually true?
Well, I think they've been forced to, number one, and if it's true, if some of the allegations are true that senior officers at Walmart were made aware of what was going on and not only shut the investigation down but didn't self-report, didn't do more reporting, that will have some serious ramifications for them. You mentioned Sarbanes-Oxley. And already there is beginning to be a laundry list of law firms and shareholders around the country who are filing suits based on that, essentially saying, look, these Walmart officers, this is a major breach of their fiduciary duty. They didn't stop it, and when they did have a chance to stop it, they covered it up, and they didn't investigate it, and they didn't report it. So to be in that Walmart boardroom now, they're getting hit from all sides. Shareholders, different governments, different agencies, unions are going to come after them over this. That's got to be a war room environment in the boardroom now.
Well, there's really no way to predict the potential price tag on all this. I mean, the company makes about $15 billion a year in profits, but they could be looking at some serious money for settlements, for fines, for punishments and all this, couldn't they?
Right, and not only on the cash side, Walmart can afford that, but here's what Walmart can't afford, in my estimation, and this has taken their eye off the ball. Look what's happening in retail right now. Best Buy, Amazon, a lot of these, the brick and mortar stores are consolidating, and they're becoming smaller. They're finding different formats, and the whole atmosphere in retail right now is changing. And Walmart has led a lot of that with their Walmart Labs and other things. So we have to wonder, how much does this take their eye off of that ball? They've been an innovator, and they've been a leader in some interesting and, frankly, some surprising areas when it comes to the Internet and e-commerce. Will they be able to continue that as they try to focus on what could really, again, the allegations could be minor, but we could get down the road and we could find that these allegations are similar to the practices maybe in other countries.